Welcome to the Partyology Experience with your host, 𝚂𝙾𝙲𝙰𝙻. Hello party people, welcome back to the Partyology Experience. I'm here today with 𝚂𝙾𝙲𝙸𝙰, function manager. No, you're not a function manager.
No,
I guess you organise functions. General manager at Feel Good Events. Welcome, Emma.
Thanks, welcome.
Hello.
Hello, I'm here, sorry. I was
Okay.
thinking, I'm getting ready.
Okay, getting ready. Right, so what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about, this is the second part to our venue choice, and we've broken it up and we're talking about having a function at home, which lots and lots and lots of people do. I would guess, or I would say, mostly because it's cheaper.
Well, they think it's cheaper.
They think it, yes.
They think it's going to be cheaper. Sometimes it works out not to be that.
Yeah, maybe, and not necessarily cheaper, but also convenient as well.
It's very convenient.
You know, you don't then necessarily have to think about where are we going to go because you're just going to have it at home.
Yes.
So there's lots of good and bad things about having it at home.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about some of those today. And Emma's got a big list, and I'm sure I can add quite a few things to this because, as I say, there is lots of good and bad things about having it at home. What's some of the good things or some of the things to think about having a party at home?
This is a good one. We're going to talk about toilets first.
Toilets? Oh, jeez. Straight to the
let's go to
the
the
good
hard
stuff.
So toilets actually can be a really difficult thing when you have it at home. So people will undercater for this.
Yep.
Now, worst thing being a female, we all know with females, there's always a line. And I hate being in a line, especially if you've been on the dance floor and you rush to go to the toilet because you want to be back on the dance floor straight away and I've got to wait in the bloody line for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
you miss all your favourite Beyonce songs.
I'm like, and then you're dancing in the line because you're like, this is my favourite.
That's right. I've noticed that. Sometimes I've DJ'd at venues and I can see the line for the female toilets.
they're like, damn
and
it.
I'm watching everyone dance in the line. I'm like, I need them on the dance floor, not in the line.
This is my favourite, single ladies.
Yeah, that's right.
So the rule of thumb with this one, and this is a very generic sort of thing, it's 1 toilet per 60 guests. Now, this is very hard because if you're having a function, let's say a 21st or a 30th or 40th, and you know there's going to be lots of alcohol consumed.
Which normally there is at most parties.
Most parties there
especially in Australia.
Depends if you're having a gathering and it's a bit more chilled and people will drink slower. But if they're going to be drinking fast and lots, you want to have at least 2 toilets to 100 people.
Minimum.
If more.
Yeah.
Now, 2, you're probably still going to be having lines at the doors. I think if you're having 100, 120 people and you're having lots of alcohol and drinks and that sort of thing, like 4 would be great.
Yeah. Or even if it's during summer and people are drinking more.
Yeah.
That could make a difference.
So, locations of where the toilets are. Are they having to trek through your whole house to get to the
one's
other
upstairs
end?
and one's downstairs.
Yes, you've got to think if it's in winter and people's shoes are going to be dirty, they're tramping that all through your house.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Do you want them to be going into your house, into those, or have access to those rooms? Because if they're going upstairs or the other end, like you don't know what people are doing. And most people that are going to come into your house are going to be respectful. But there also is those times when you want to make sure you protect it as well. So making sure you know where the toilets are. This might be a thing where just hire portable toilets. If you've got the space for them, put them out the back. You can get some really nice flash portable toilets these days, not those horrible ones you see on the side of the road when they're doing roadworks. So do consider this. Of course, it is an extra cost, so it just depends on what options you have.
But it could save you in damages to your house if you've you've got a new house and you're having a housewarming or something like that.
Yes, protect your floors and everything else that's in your house
nice
as well.
Nice tiles or wooden floors or something.
And then you're having all those people line up in their, other end of your house, away from the party. Takes, and females are there for a while because they're chatting to their girlfriends and doing their makeup, and you're always in there taking selfies.
I can't say I do that.
I say Marcus is looking at me like, what, you do that?
No wonder you stay long in the toilets.
Yeah, an insight to what girls do in the toilets.
Yeah.
So definitely consider the toilets. The toilets are a really big thing and they can sort of change the atmosphere and what people are doing, and you end up having half of them at the toilets, which you don't want.
Yeah.
No one's there to go to the toilet. They're there to have a good time.
Yeah, true.
And when you're drinking, you need to go a lot. Yes. So the next thing I have on here is catering. Now, I over the years have learnt this as I've gotten older. I sound like I'm about 45. You need to make sure that you have a caterer on site, or you have someone that's not going to be at the party as a guest to cook the food. Now, I have done my own functions way back in the day where my mum and my...
How old are you? You sound like you're 80.
I know, I feel like I'm 80 sometimes. That my mum and my nan have been in the kitchen, or my mum's girlfriends have been in the kitchen the whole night, and they've not been able to enjoy it. I cannot stand when people do that, or they're in there, you know, cooking and chatting, and they're, you know, not getting to go and enjoy their daughter's 21st birthday or whatever they've paid for, because most of them have paid, the parents have paid at that stage. So please consider, there is really good, cheap options for catering, or there's heaps of options for catering. How many catering companies are here in Melbourne or around the world? So please do consider this, and there's lots of different like price points as well, so you can get, you know, very top notch, or you can get, you know, sort of more your basics. So please do consider that, because I really do see that as being a really downer to a party.
Yeah, and look, sometimes a cheaper option to do that is not necessarily hire a caterer. Go and buy the food yourself.
Yes.
Find a wholesaler or something that'll sell to the general public.
Yes.
Buy the food yourself, so you'll save some money there, and then pay a few friends or
someone,
you know, somebody that you don't necessarily know that well, that's happy to come and do the food or do the bar. Because, as we've said before, you don't want to be working at your function, you want to be enjoying it.
You want to be enjoying it.
That's right.
And there is companies now that have like, they're just more of a labour or service that they offer. So some of them you can just hire the staff from them only, and not even the food. So
even something like Airtasker or something like that might even be the way to go.
So many options these days. You can do anything.
Yeah, you can. You can.
Literally anything.
You can.
Talking about kitchens and catering, make sure your kitchen is away from the actual party area. You do not want to be looking through the window that's right next to the dance floor, watching everyone cook your dinner.
That's right.
And it's also that they also in the kitchen need to have lights on, and if they're shining through windows or into the space, they're adding more light into a space, so you want it to be moody as well. So
that's right.
There's lots of things to consider.
So I think we should go into from there, the actual layout. Now, it's really hard when you're having a function at home. Obviously, you can't knock out walls and do all that sort of stuff. And not everybody has a great setup for a house party.
No.
Or for a function, a great party. So one of the biggest problems I find being, DJing over many years and doing house parties is they're very segregated.
Yeah.
So you've got some maybe out in the garage, and you've got some in the garden, and you've got some people standing in the kitchen. And so you've got people everywhere, and it's very disjointed. And it doesn't really work. And as we say, you've got people off in the toilets and in the kitchen and hanging out in those other areas, because that's where people sort of hang out.
Yep.
And then where you really want them is, in the party area is not actually happening.
Yes.
The amount of functions I've done where I've been in the garage set up as the DJ and everybody's inside the house, and occasionally people come out and have a bit of a dance or whatever, but it's too cold out there, or it's just not set up right, or it's too disjointed. If you can keep everybody together, then that's going to be the winner. So you may have a house that's not that big or very disjointed. I would maybe suggest that you look into hiring a marquee. If you've got a back garden that's suitable to have a marquee in, then go down that path, because marquees, proper marquees, and we're not talking cheap ones from Bunnings, proper marquees that you hire in, they're not super expensive for the sizes that you can get, and they're going to be weatherproof. They're not going to blow away like some of the cheap ones do.
Yes, we've seen that.
Which happens a lot, especially in Melbourne. If you live in Melbourne and you've got, Melbourne weather can be pretty iffy.
Yes.
It's worth hiring a marquee for that. It will keep everybody together. You can have your bar in that space. You can have your dance floor in that space. You can have furniture if you get the right size. And it can make a big difference to how your function goes.
Yes, and you could be adding onto a space. So a lot of people will have garages that are slightly too small to everyone, so they'll add a marquee onto their garage.
That's right, and that's another option.
And it
as
makes
well.
it a bit bigger. So there's so many options. It just depends on your space, and that's why you sometimes we'll get experts to come in and tell you what you can do with your space as well.
And one of the worst parties I've ever done, and it's funny how the worst ones sometimes stick out more than the good ones, was a house party, and it stuck out for the fact that I was in a marquee, or it was a tent, I think, a big tent, and I was down the back garden, sort of the bottom end of the back garden, and everybody was in the house, which was quite a big block, maybe 40, 50 metres away, and everybody stayed inside all night because it just wasn't the right weather. And so I literally played music to myself all night.
That would have been fun.
And people came and poked their head in and then saw nobody was in there and then went back to the house. And it was just a complete waste of money. It was a waste of my time, and it was just like they could have just had some music playing, and they probably did. I don't even know. They probably had music playing inside. Who knows? So it was so disjointed that it just didn't work.
Yes.
Another bad example, and I hate to give bad examples because we do so many great parties.
Yes.
Was one out in the country, and it was in a big open shed.
It was fun.
It was the middle of winter. They only had about 30 people, and it was this massive wool shed It was freezing cold.
It was like last night. It was 2 degrees last night. It was
Yeah.
like that.
Freezing cold. Everyone sat around the fire. They literally sat there looking at me. There was music playing, obviously, because I'm DJing. Nobody wanted to dance. Too cold. Wrong environment.
was more
Massive
gathering.
space. It was just, yeah. It wasn't a great party experience for anybody involved, especially me. I was near the fire, so I was freezing.
Yes.
So these are the things that can be bad if you're having it at your house or your property.
Yes, and as you keep touching on, the weather is a huge issue.
Exactly
We
right.
live in Melbourne, people.
That's right. And not everybody who might listen to this lives in Melbourne, but
Yes.
yes, if you...
But you have weather issues regardless of where you live in the world. I guess we say Melbourne only for the fact that Melbourne has 4 seasons in one day. But it does, as we've said multiple times, in those bad situations, it's been weather dependent really, because it's been way too cold. It hasn't been, the layout hasn't worked either.
That's right. And
so that's a huge thing.
And if you're planning for everyone to stand out in your back garden, and even if you've got a fire burning there, you've got a fire pit or a fire drum or something like that, it's not really fun. Like, it's not encouraging a fun environment.
That's a gathering to
and
me.
people will go home.
They'll just stand around it and they'll try and keep
And if that's what you
warm.
want, that's fine. But if you want it to be a party, party with great party energy, then that's not going to create that sort of atmosphere. Even in summer too. Summer can, really kill your function if it's a stinking hot night. People won't want to dance because they're too hot. So if you've got the option of either providing extra heating or extra cooling for your event space, I guarantee it's going to make a big difference.
Yeah.
And once people start dancing, if it's a hot night, they're going to get hot and then they're going to stop dancing because it's too hot. Not necessarily because the environment's not right or the music's not right. Oh, sorry, the decor's not right. I'll get it out there. The music might be great, but if it's too hot, people won't dance. And I've been in function venues where people have been dancing, inside, and I'm outside because it's cooler inside where the air conditioning is, and they've set me up outside. So weather can make, creature comforts, those basics can make a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah, and even something as simple as, mosquito repellent and all that sort of stuff. If you're having it outside at your house, you need those type of things as well. So something else that people quite often overlook.
Yeah, just have them on a bar table or on the bar so
That's
people
right.
can go spray
Help
their legs
themselves.
if they're being bitten or something like that.
Yeah.
But the things to fix that is, if you're going to have your garage and your marquee, you just have heaters in there and you enclose the space, but you make sure the space is not too big. So, body heat is a huge thing. So you have everyone in one space, so it all comes into line here with all the points we've said. Have it in a space where everyone's together, so the body heat keeps everyone warm. Have heaters in there and have it all enclosed as well.
Yeah.
So that's all those points work out to
That's
be a
right.
good function space. And then you can still do that in winter. But do all those things to make sure it's going to be correct and work well.
That's right. So I guess we're talking about some of the negatives, but there's some positives about having it at home. As we say, sometimes it can be cheaper. You don't have to pay a high fee.
Yes.
Typically, if you've got a good house for having functions, you can go longer.
Yes.
So function venues are typically a 5-hour function.
Yes.
And that's all you really get unless you want to pay extra. And a lot of the time they can't always allow extra based on the venue. So having it at home, if you've got no noise restrictions or your neighbours are really good, or if you've invited the neighbours, which is something to consider,
Yes.
You can maybe go for an extra couple of hours if you need to.
Yeah.
One of the downfalls, I guess, from having it at home is that you will need to clean up, whereas the function venue will do that for you. Having it at home, you're going to need to do all the cleaning up unless you get in hired help if you can afford those. And we've quite often organised that for people. The last thing they want to do is clean up their house the next day.
Yep.
But the good thing on the upside of that is you don't necessarily, if you're not too stressed about it, you can clean up over a few days. It doesn't necessarily all have to be done that night or the next morning. You can, spread it out over a couple of days and slowly clean up the party. So there's some of the good and bad things. What are the other things that you've got on your list, Emma?
I've just got things like, register the party with the police. Now, this might not need to be done for every function, but if you're having your 16th, 18th, 21st, by the time kids or people are at 21st, they're normally pretty respectful. It's normally not the people that are invited, it's the people that are not invited that you have issues with.
That's right.
So make sure that you register with the police, and that's just a backup, because if they know and it's registered and they've got all your details, if you call them straight away saying there's an issue, they don't have to ask any more questions, they'll come straight to you. Whereas if they don't know about it, it's a lot more logistics to go through. They probably won't send out someone as quick. It just depends on what's going on. So it's definitely a good thing to have that registered with the police. people think it's bad for some reason, or they get a bit freaked out, they have to get the police involved. But it's just a backup just in case. I think it's always a really
Especially
good
it's
thing.
more for teenage events.
It is. I'm not saying for 30s and 40s unless your friends are really rowdy.
A bit on the
All
rough
the mums
side.
are out.
Yeah, that's right.
They're going wild.
Thanks for listening to the Partyology Experience with your host, Marcus Prentice. Don't forget to subscribe or check out our website for more party tips and expert advice at feelgoodevents.com.au.